What's up, fam? You are listening to the Urban Sports Scene. I'm Wole, and I'm your host. The homie Ray Jeezy's out. You can also check us out at www.urbansportscene.com. That's www.urbansportscene.com. Hey, this is gonna be a dope show. We're gonna talk about this show's gonna be based on the Washington Commanders draft. It's gonna be my mock draft. I'm gonna have a guest come on here and talk about my mock draft. But before we get into all that, let's get into the particulars. And subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, tune in, iHeartRadio, and iHeartRadio. Just search the Urban Sports Scene. Make sure you subscribe to the Urban Sports and YouTube channel. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, hit the red subscribe button and like this video. Hey, don't forget to tweet us at Urban Sports Scene. Hit us up on IG at Urban Sports Scene and like our Urban Sports Scene Facebook page. Also, join our Urban Sports Scene Facebook group. Search Urban Sports Scene, sports bloggers, sports podcasters, and sports debates. All right, let's get into our tradition, the pregame. Here's what we have on tap. I'm going to put out my Commanders mock draft with Adam Aniba from the Burgundy and Gold Report. All right, I see my man Adam is in the building. So right now, I got Adam Aniba from the Burgundy and Gold Report on the show. What is good, Adam?
Hey, what's going on, man?
It's nothing much, man. This is an exciting time, man. We talking. The draft is like next week. It's exciting.
Close. Yeah, I know it crept up, right?
Yes, isn't this like your favorite part of the year? You know, you're a scout and evaluator. This is like your time, right?
I wish I could drag it on another couple weeks because, I really usually sit down, watch between 50 and 60 or so, and I try to get out hopefully around like 30 to 35 scouting reports. So that's always the goal. So it like I said, it creeps up, and life's crazy, takes up time. So, but yeah, it's my favorite time. It just once it goes and it's like a little bit of slow time. That's the part I hate.
How much time does it take to go through and look at you basically cover it from a Washington point of view, but how much time does that take for you to kind of look and assess, okay, this is a good fit, that's a good fit?
A lot, because it's not like, okay, you watch the guys, like, okay, watch the 5 games, right on it. There's so many times I'll watch a game or two, or just like, maybe some clips here, and I'm like, I'm done. Like there was definitely a couple edge rushers, one guy in your mock, that happened with, but otherwise, yeah, it's 5 games. I try to get the all 22 as much as possible. It's not easy because that's the best way, but I try to get just the full games, and again, that takes time, but I love it. It's something that every year I think I latch on a different position, and this year, obviously with Washington's needs, it's been offensive tackle. So I think very raw and evaluating the tackles, but I think after this draft, definitely come a long way with it, considering how many I'm going to end up evaluating.
Oh no, I appreciate it, man, because I don't have that energy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I love football. I love football. I love college football, and like I don't have that energy. I'm like, you know what? I should. One day, there was a day I was like, you know what? I should get the all 22. I should do all of this, and I was like, nah, it's okay. I don't have that time. Let me leave that to people like Adam. You know what I mean?
You gotta really like to do it when it's one of those things where when you're not doing it, you're missing it. So like I'd like to write about the Commanders, don't get me wrong, but when I do this scouting reports, it's tunnel vision. The only connection to Washington is positions of need. But when I do my scouting reports, 2 years ago I changed it up, and the scouting reports are just a straight up scouting report, no talk about Washington. So I enjoy that. And again, when that time ends, it's hard because it's just a lot of projection and stuff in the off season. But yeah, to see any of the end players I end up at Washington, over the years, Sam Howell, a couple guys, but it's been cool.
All right. I know. I was going to say RFP Sam Howell, but he's still living. But we wish Sam Howell the best. We wish Sam Howell the best. But Adam, are you ready to go through my mock draft, my man?
Sure, let's do it, man.
All right, let's get right into it. All right, here we go. All right, this is my Wole's mock draft. Here we go. First round pick, Drake May. Second round pick, Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma. Other second round pick, Kinsley Satamatia. I've been practicing that name. I think I'm close. to it. From BYU, offensive tackle. This is one of my favorites, Jonah Ellis, defense end from Utah. One of my favorites, actually. Cam Hart. Third round pick, Cam Hart, cornerback out of Notre Dame. Third rounder, Peyton Willis out of NC State. Fifth rounder, Javon Solomon, Troy, one of the best sackers out in the country. Fifth round, 152 pick, Will Shipley from running back out of Clemson. and finally, Jalen Carlisle's linebacker could be safety out of Missouri. So let me take this list to take this off. So out of that list, first off, let's start with the quarterback Drake May. What are your thoughts? What does first off, and because a lot of people go left and right with Drake May, so we'll go with the positive for Drake May. What are some of your positives with Drake May?
Oh, I think he's when you can see the off script impromptu throws. Again that pick game when he ran to the left and then the guy grabbed his right arm, pushed it down. When the guy pushed his arm down, he switched arms and went ambidextrous on him and threw a touchdown. It was a cool play to watch. It was, you're not going to see too many of those kind of plays in the NFL. Just the way it developed, I think he gets killed on that play on the next level. But again, it's good to see. What I like is, his anticipation. I like his, the hero ball though. That's concerning. And it's funny because I said the same thing with Sam Howell coming out, but it also can be like a real positive because he's got a gun. He's got a good arm. Good accuracy. I like what he does out of the pocket. But again, when you dig deeper with him, he's not as experienced as some of the other guys. And I think if you're a team that has, 3-4 years, I think to be patient, really develop him. I'm not saying he can't start right away. But I really think, he's got some bad habits. What I don't like to see is go from year to year. I want to see improvement from 2022 to 23. Granted, he lost a lot of weapons. I just saw the footwork get really sloppy. The arm motion, he's got great elasticity, but I started just seeing, it just looked like labored lazy. Like he could throw lasers, but then there's just times I'm wondering why didn't he do it on that play? We'll talk about other guys, but outside the hashes, I don't know if he can make every throw. I hear, everyone is on both sides. If May is the guy in Washington, cool. I think he'll still be good with Kingsbury and what they got going.
Okay.
But I think that you have to be really patient with him. And my big concern is as Washington develops an offensive line, although he can run, don't get me wrong. He's not JD5 as far as being able to escape pressure. And I think a lot of the things he did in college, when you're playing in the ACC, you're not playing those SEC type defenses where they're a cloud zone, and next thing you know, it's an all out blitz or they're blitzing the corner. He's going to see a lot of things he's not used to, and again, that takes time. He does come from an air raid based system. Again, Washington doesn't want to say Kingsbury doesn't want to call it an air raid, but again, that's a big positive because I think when it comes to terminology, verbiage, that's going to help him a lot. So those are some positives, but again, they're all going to have some positive and negatives. But I think with him, he's probably out of the top 3 guys, he's the most raw, and I think he's got the most to clean up. And again, it could go either way, but I don't think he's a bust. I think worst case scenario for the guy, he's a decent NFL starter.
Let's see, my man Paul said, after watching all his films, feet is just too inconsistent, needs to watch and learn. All right, so this is my and we're gonna go to actually before I get into that, tell me his negatives, his overall negatives. I know you talked a little bit about it, but
footwork.
His negatives.
The footwork, and again, I kind of touched on it before. Some of those opportunities where he should have just thrown a laser that he could have thrown, he kind of just floated it out there, or he just held on to it too long. He took a lot of unneeded sacks. Again, that's kind of a North Carolina thing. But he'll be coming to Washington. And again, this is, no matter what Washington does with the offensive line in the draft, I think there's a significant chance that Lucas ends up starting left tackle. And although I like him, that's a spot starter guy. And I think you got to have a guy that can really be a lot more impromptu. He's going to get a lot of shit thrown at him that he has not ever seen before. That's my opinion. And that's the number one thing when it comes to May. I'm not going to throw at you that many negatives. I said the hero ball, but some great quarterbacks, though. Brett Favre was the best hero ball guy there is. Rodgers was another one. But I think with him, again, I say that level of competition can't be a big focus. What I've learned is quarterback, it has to, because out of all the positions, it's 1 against 11, what you're doing out there. So I think what he's seen at North Carolina and what these guys, what JD5 saw in the ACC, significant difference.
So I guess all right. So in terms of, what the argument to say, all right, because we've seen JD5 and in a place where he didn't have as much talent in Arizona State. So we switched. I like to use this for any discussion. So to be fair, and I'm with you. I would be happy with either quarterback. I'm at that point right now. Yeah, but if they switch teams, who would struggle more?
May.
So you think May would struggle more, even with May working with less talent, just because we've seen the platform of why is that? Why
I think JD5's processing is just better right now, and that has to do with maturity. So again, you take the age factor away, May might get the nod, but I think the fact that I don't look at it as a negative that Daniels, was at Arizona, LSU, and has played a lot of college ball. I think that's something fans are gonna have to get used to with the NIL and everything. Now, guys are going to be playing 4 or 5 years, not the 3-year guys. You still have those guys, the money's in the NFL. But when these guys are making so much money, we're going to see that more. So it's not a negative, especially, with the quarterback position being protected more and more in the NFL. We're going to see quarterbacks playing into their mid-40s. I'm telling you, in the next 10 years, quarterbacks are going to be so protected, they're not going to be able to be touched. So I think it's a position that longevity is going to last more than any other position in football. So in saying that, I think you have a guy like JD5 being around Edwards, being around, all the other guys that he's been around. I think he just has the opportunity to come in and really adapt better. And I think, when it breaks down, he escapes the pocket. Again, I think although May can run, I don't think he's going to be a lot of doers. You can have those draws, things like that. But when he really has to escape pressure, I think he's going to struggle early on.
Interesting. So my thought process is, for me, just the body of work. I know, and everybody's different. So I've always said, well, my body works a little different. My thought process is a little different, just because I feel like one, it's easy, for his footwork's going to be exposed more because the offensive line was bad. It wasn't the offensive line last year. So it's just like we saw, like you said, with Sam Howell with Washington, right? It's easy and could play. I'll put it this way: comparing Sam Howell and Washington to a Jalen Hurts. Jalen doesn't have to see any pressure, so it's easy to say he's staying strong in the pocket, but he never seen any pressure because that line's the best offensive line of football.
That's right.
While when you can't trust your O-line, then the feet start to become a problem. So I do feel and compared to where in LSU that O-line was a lot better.
Definitely,
a lot better. It's a lot better. So I do think that I know I get the footwork conversation. I'm not knocking it. I get it.
All can be cleaned up. All can be cleaned up, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
What I don't understand, we'll go on show, me and Doug, we'll do our show on Wednesdays. And, we've had some great guests, from all over the media, all over the country. And it's just so funny how far they separate. You start talking about Drake May in the second round and the third round. That's not what I think it's more of a reach to put McCarthy up there right now, because, again, a lot of stuff you're doing is projecting with him because he was limited in what he ran in Michigan. You just have to look at the body of work. Sure. And again, with May, you just have to the reason the footwork is going to matter is because, again, like I said, when he has to escape pressure, things like that, great. He's tall, athletic, but he's going to start tripping over himself because these guys that are coming to the NFL are like nothing he's seen. And Daniels, we're going to see a lot of guys in the first round of guys that he went against. And, you talk about guys like Jared Verse and all these other guys, I understand, but he's taking those hits and getting up. So one thing I really wanted to dig into with Daniels is the sack numbers. And, Kevin Sheehan has talked about it. Other shows have talked about it, the sacks to pressures. Over a third of his sacks ended up in 4 yards or less lost, and they were out of bounds. They were runs out of bounds. They weren't even hits out of a third of his sacks. So what that showed is he understands that when the pressure breaks down, whatever, he just takes it. He's not a guy that's just going to throw it up there and try to make a play when it's not there. So he's doing that. Also, what you'll never find in these YouTube highlights is him sliding. You couldn't find it with RG3 because he just simply didn't do it. But JD5 does it. So what I suggest to people who are on the fence is try to find it. It's out there. There's tapes out there. Of all passes of JD5, all passes, all slides, no runs. Take the runs out of the equation when you really look at him and just base it on that. And to me, it's the top 3 quarterbacks. So we know the top 3 guys. And honestly, Washington, if they could get any of them, I'm sure that what I have confidence in is the staff that they're putting together compared to staffs in the past, like Ron Rivera and all that. I think that they're going to really adjust their play calling and what they run compared to what quarterback they take. So I think with JD5, I think it would be smart to see a lot of that run action we did see with Kyle Shanahan sprinkled in there. Nothing as much as that, of course. And with May, you're going to see a lot of that. Like talking about the air raid, some of the concepts he ran when he's in Carolina. So again, I think you can't go wrong either way. I just feel more confident with this offensive line. Going to take a year or two, hopefully not more than that. And I think he's the one that could, keep them more competitive. I think May is going to take a lot of punishment behind this developmental line right now. That's
I will say, yeah. Oh, I get that. I will say this though, in terms of like, because I've heard like, I guess my issue with not with just in general when folks say, like May, you have to wait a little bit longer for May, like 3 years. I'm like this. I don't think this rebuild is going to be like in a year or two. Like, you know what I mean?
No.
I think it's going to be about 3 years.
It's true.
So I feel like
they're gonna
get
the leash.
Yeah. So I feel like not you, Adam. I'm just talking about fans. When I hear that, that conversation when we talk about Drake May, they're like, well, it's going to take us some time to get it right to be the quarterback for this team. I'm like, dude, we got a bunch of time. Yeah, we have time.
I'm worried about the shell shock factor. See, that's the thing with me.
That's fair.
Because
that's fair.
Again,
that's fair.
Sam Howell made his mistakes, and again, I really liked what he had, but I do think it's reminiscent of Patrick Ramsey. When he was there, there's just some of that there, and again, how mentally can they overcome it? Patrick Ramsey left and he couldn't. We'll see if Sam Howell can do it elsewhere, but I'm telling you, it's a major factor. Yeah. And again, the difference is with May is big dude, and he can sustain a lot of that punishment, and he can get 2 yards. He can get out of it. But again, I think teams are going to really try to exploit that early on, knowing that he just didn't see much exotic stuff coming up. And again, it's a limited experience.
No, very, 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 very valid point. Very valid point. My man, Paul said, "Did you have a wide receiver in your mind?" Hey, Paul, I didn't actually. I'm not in love with like the wide. Like I'm like when Adam, like to me, when you draft your quarterback, all I care about is tackles. So I went tackle. So
they're definitely taking a wide receiver though.
Oh, they are. 100. Oh, they are. They probably are. But I just don't really care about the wide receivers in the draft that are.
Yeah.
After where they're at, like I don't think they're going to be impact players, to be honest with you. But that's just me though. So Paul, so my second round pick, Tyler Guyton. Let's talk about Tyler Guyton.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on Tyler Guyton at tackle? Is he a guy that can play right away? What do you think of him? First, what do you think of him overall? What is his comparison, his comp? What is his comp? And also, is he a guy that they drafted? Would he be projected at left tackle? Could he be or is he somebody that would go to right tackle first?
Well, you look at his teammate last year, Harrison, who was selected by Jacksonville last year. I believe it was in the first round, early second. I forgot. But that's who he compares to most right now. But again, what's crazy to me is you'll see a lot of discussion about moving him to guard. Dude is 6'8", 322. Okay, you don't see too many real successful guards at that size. And another misconception is people call him slow. Again, a former basketball player, I don't understand. That's what I'm saying. I feel like people are saying things just to get a little more attention because I feel like, same with the quarterbacks. You got to be valid. And I don't see that. He's not as quick, of course, as guys like Mims or Fuaga or any of them. But these are blue chip guys that I think are going to be real good right now. I think Guyton has the ability to start. But the question is, do you want him at right tackle or left tackle? He's saw limited time at left tackle, but he actually even played H-back in high school. So, he is athletic enough. He can move, a 34-inch plus arms, nimble, good bend, functional strength, displays a powerful punch. And what I like about him is as far as pass pro, that's where he's ahead of the curve right now. And I think a lot of people get caught up about, run blocking, pass blocking. I think it doesn't take as much, I think, to get proficient in the run blocking. I think your teammates help you a lot in that angle. Play scheme goes a lot. But a guy that can come in here and he's this technically sound in pass sets, that's a guy that if you're going to, and I say, I don't know how you're going to get him at this point. I think you have to get a trade up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
25 to 30 to get him. I think if you sit there, your next guy, Kingsley, or Morgan from Arizona, the more likely guys.
Okay.
But Guyton, I love his talent. I think that, super athletic guy. I think he really has the opportunity to end up being one of the better tackles in the next 5+ years. But if you can get him at that spot, you don't have to trade up, man. That would probably be one of the picks of the draft for Washington.
My man Brian said, I'd take a wide receiver in the second round after we get our O tackle. So would that be your second pick in the second round? Would it be a wide receiver? Would you go that route? Ignoring my mock, would you go that route?
I guess it depends. It depends who falls. It depends. You have a guy like the biggest ones that you've heard about are Franklin from Oregon and the kid from Florida State, two big body guys. The Florida State.
That's my thought.
He ran the 4.64 and he's 6'4", and he's exactly the kind of guy Washington needs. So if he's available at pick 36-40. It's one of the few two guys I would say, other than unless the guys ahead of him end up slipping. But those are two guys that I would seriously consider because that's exactly the complement Washington needs. Because if you wait a little longer, the third round, you got the other Florida State kid. And he's 6'6", but he's a possession guy, not quite as athletic. I wrote about him early on the season, so there's a big drop off. So again. It's all about who's going to slip to me. I think they are going to take one in the top 100, but how early will going to depend, like how much value they get. And again, I think because we're going to see a run on tackles. I think running tackles, corners and wide receivers in that first round. So there's going to be some guys that slip at other positions. So although as fans we really want to see offensive tackle with that 36-40 pick, they could go another direction and hopefully develop a guy the second or third round pick.
All right, so Taj has a good question. Which position group do y'all think will drop in the second round?
I think tackle, just because there's going to be so many that are taken.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like
6 to 8 going in the first round, and then another 5 to 6 going in the second round. That's tackles. And we talk about inside guys too. At least 4 to 5 guys going in the first, second round too. So I think that cupboard is going to be picked pretty clean by the third round. I think third, fourth round, you have more developmental guys, more right side guys, nobody that's going to be, blind side protected. There's more right side guys that, could possibly move inside if it doesn't work out. But I think for Washington, they didn't really go outside in free agency to really seal that up. So I think you have to select one with one of those first 3 or 4 picks. You have to.
I agree. Paul,
if they don't, I'm going to seriously question the draft. And
me too.
I understand it's a process, but to hope someone else. The thing is about left tackles is they don't come available. And if they come available, they're older, they're injury riddled. Those are the only guys you just don't see it happen out of all the positions. Probably that and quarterback. There's the ones you don't see unless they've got issues. So this is the time you make an investment. And I talk about trading up in the first round. The other bonus of trading up in the first round is you get that 5th-year option. So if you get a tackle that really blows up for you, you have you have your quarterback and your left tackle coming up around the same time. That's not a big problem to have if it works out.
No, I think Paul agrees with you. Paul said I would trade back into the first round. I think that's the route. I feel like if you trade up in the first round, I would love for them to get Guyton. If it looks like Guyton isn't going to slip, because usually it's wild. Sometimes like a certain player just slips for some strange reason.
Well, he could slip.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Because he was rated initially a second rounder, and then all of a sudden now he's gotten kind of rated up to be a first rounder.
It's because for a need for position, and then what we don't know is how the interview process goes. Like, how high is his overall ability to lead? Because when you draft a left tackle, that's a guy that you also want to be a leader of your offensive line. So if you're a quiet, not really tough guy, that might not be somebody Washington wants. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So I'm going to read off someone Paul mentioned in terms of wide receiver. Bud Means.
Love him.
Out of Pitt. He said he's the guy to watch. Can you tell us about him real quick?
Yeah, no, not a big guy. 6 foot, just over 200 pounds. But I love about strong.
Paul, you lost me there, Paul. If he's 6 foot, I don't need another one. See, Paul, I thought you were talking about a 6'4" dude. You're talking. See, I'm not already. But go ahead, Adam. I'm playing. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, like that's a guy like late round. You're talking about to the 6th, 7th round again. If he was 6'2", 6'3", I think we'd be talking to him more in that late 3rd, 4th round. But the size, it matters. But him and a guy in Malichi Corley, another guy Western Kentucky, that guy has really risen up a lot of draft boards. But Means, again, he's not going to blow you away. Good speed, very good speed. But again, 6 foot, plays bigger. That's what I like about him. He's going to be more of that fourth receiver, move the chains guy. But I think in the 6th round, if you haven't addressed it, or you already have, and he could be on the top, on the cherry on the top of the cake, because I think that if you can have as a compliment, it's all good. But I definitely would like to see them get some more size on the outside.
Cool, me too. I would too. So I'm going to go my second round pick, just to speak about him, even though he may not be the pick anyway. But Kingsley Suamatia.
Yeah,
Trying to
no,
be like.
he's
I'm hearing
another guy
about
that
guard. I'm hearing guard talk. I'm hearing guard talk from a lot of
you
people. But
just said the right
all
out of
right,
my mouth.
okay.
They'll try him. I think he'll get tried at right tackle. I have heard left tackle. I'm just not sure about left tackle. I think that'll take more time. I think in year one, it would probably make sense to to try at least try him inside. You don't have to, not exclusively, but at right tackle and inside. That's where I would try him. But again, if you're trying to build offensive line, these two guys at the top, this is how you do it. Because I think that if you can really get a group together, I think you have to have a focus coming in the draft. And I really wouldn't be surprised, maybe not back to back, but I really wouldn't be surprised if they do this. But Kingsley, I love his mean streak. That's what I love about
Me
him.
too.
Like the Samoans, man, I just love how they play. And he's another one, originally, an Oregon commit. So, I really like his game. And I think that, you get him at that point. Don't be surprised if someone pulls a trigger in the first round that they like him for what, especially run, with the run game. If you're trying to commit to the run game, what you're doing, we have no idea what Washington's doing. If they want to go, I'm hearing a lot of stuff talking about gap, counter stuff like that is what we can expect. And, with some zone stuff sprinkled in, but again, you can't go wrong with a tackle like him that you can move in. Again, if it doesn't work out, you definitely can move inside with him.
Yeah, I think Paul agrees. He said guard. Yeah, definitely. But I wouldn't mind if they tried him out at right tackle. I just don't like the so the it doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't matter in terms of quarterback, right? You're drafting quarterback with the second pick overall. I just think your job is to make life easy for that rookie quarterback, regardless.
Right, you can't solve all your starting positions right away. Guys like this, exactly like I said. Guyton might not get the edge of a Lucas, and Kingsley, would probably not play over Wiley right away. Yeah. So as fans, we're gonna have to understand that is a very likely scenario, and that's when I talk about getting the most athletic quarterback you can.
True, good point. All right, so this is my favorite actually. My favorite out of my mock, Jonah Ellis, DN out of Utah. Your thoughts on your thoughts on Jonah?
Only watched a little of him. I'm going to try to get to more, but I'm running out of time here because I just did Booker, which is another edge rusher from Kansas. I'm a lot higher on him just from the early stuff I've seen because I like the fight in him. Ellis is definitely more of a traditional D end. And yeah, you talk about in the third round, the position in need for Washington. Ellis, yeah, he's a guy in time that, he could definitely be a utility starter.
Yeah, he's a guy that I like a guy who has a counter move. And he has a counter move. And I'm a big believer. I have a pattern. I'm a big believer of what you do in the combine. He didn't really partake in the combine, but he had a good individual workout. I'm a believer of what you do on Saturdays matters. And to me, to be one, and he missed most of the end of the season last year, and he said he still had 12 sacks. I'm a believer in a guy who can just kind of, if you're a sack artist, it's the same reason why, back then when Terrell Suggs kind of slipped in the draft. When folks thought he was going to be a top 10 pick, I think he slipped a little further down the draft. He was still a first rounder, but it's like he was one of the best sack artists in college football, and that means something. And I feel like with Jonah, similar. Like it means something to kind of do that, especially doing that on a Utah team that's known to have a good defense. Like to be putting up those numbers, it means something. So he's a guy I think like whoever gets him, he's a guy who has a motor. A guy who has been consistent on Saturdays. I think whoever gets him, I'm hoping it's Washington. I think he'd be dynamic in a pass rush package.
Well, I think he'd play good with what Washington has already. I think that he would thrive for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with Dan Quinn in that situation where you can see the creativity, right? Of kind of utilizing that skill set. So yeah, I would love for Washington to get him in the third round. I know I've seen him in that area because I kind of engaged in where he could probably go late second, third rounder. But for you, like, what's a pass rusher that you are in love with, that you watch and really observe?
More and more is Marshawn Nealon.
Okay.
He's a guy at Western Kentucky. I really like. He's just, again, you talk about motor. Relentless motor. A guy I think you can start him right away, and that's the thing. When I say it like that, that's where there could be a team or two that sees that late part of the first round, even though he's got that second, depending on who you talk to, late second, early third. But he's a guy that out of all the pass rushers, I think is on the big has the biggest rise right now. And another guy I just wrote about, I mentioned Austin Booker from Kansas. He's in that late third round, but he's another guy 6'4", 240 that's really rising. But again, people will talk about is he a 3-4 outside linebacker because a lot of his reps were standing up. So you've got a lot of flavors in this draft when it comes to edge. You know, we talk about Robinson from Missouri. Okay. You know, he's a guy. We started the process. I watched him in I think December, and I had him where a lot of people did that second, third round range, but it shows you as the process goes on, more people just Spartan tape. You know, this is a guy talking about into the first round, you know, mostly played defensive line, defensive tackle, moved outside. Last year, got 8 sacks. So there's a lot of different flavors. You know, it's all Braswell from Alabama. There's a lot of different flavors, a lot of different types. So Washington, again, I say with receiver, I do think edge is another one because, you know, you brought Armstrong from Dallas, but everybody else is on 1-year contracts. Exactly. You know, Henry, he's on a rookie contract. Jones is on a rookie contract. I think Shaka Tony's odd man out. I don't think he ends up making the roster. Yeah. So it'll be, you know, so you don't have guys on long-term deals. And it's the same with linebackers. That's why, you know, we'll talk about the other guy. You've got a lot of guys I wrote about, but I think a linebacker, you know, look, don't be surprised. See, I told you, right? Don't be surprised you see a linebacker in that top 100 as well, because they're not set at linebacker.
All right, so Todd said a statement. He said players are staying in college more. The draft is not as deep, making those second and third round picks valuable. Agreed? Yeah. You agree?
I definitely think so. You've got a lot of guys staying, but again, you've got a lot of, you know, 5th-year guys coming out this year with top 1 projections. So it's crazy how it's working out.
Definitely, totally agree. All right, my next pick was actually my cornerback, Notre Dame. Cam Hart did a decent job against my man Marvin Harrison Jr. Yep. So that's his claim to fame. Your thoughts on the cornerback out of Notre Dame? What do you like about him?
Yeah, another guy I wrote about. I like the size. You know, 6'3", 202. You talk about Dan Quinn. What kind of cornerbacks that they're gonna, you know, look for? I definitely think they're gonna look for those big body, long arm guys. Because I've heard, you know, multiple times already about Quinn talking about press, about having a desire to be more of a man-to-man team, press team, and I take him seriously. So these are the kind of corners you're going to look at. You know, 33+ inch arms. You know, ability to be a field general. Lack of interceptions, though, only 2 career interceptions. So, you know, not in that ball hawk range, but that's what we're hoping Forbes can be. So you got to have different guys that can play off each other. You know, this guy's the complete opposite with Forbes. You know, good height, but, you know, over 200 pounds. So, you know, definitely a good build. But, you know, 4.5 speed, you know, again, average, can struggle at times when he's got to recover out of position. So that's why you're looking at a guy like this. 3rd, maybe early 4th, but I think based on the need, I think he ends up going somewhere, you know, in the late 3rd round. But, you know, just like a lot of rookies, you know, run support is just okay. But this is a guy that you can, I think, definitely get ready to be eventually, you know, your 3rd, 4th cornerback. And if everything goes right, he can be a number 2, but not really number 1 guy, but, you know, good value at this point in the draft.
Oh, my man Paul said Cam Hart is a good pick. Should go higher. Great choice. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate you. I like him. I think that very So how do you think he compares to St. Juice? I guess that's my question.
I think St. Jude's a little more athletic. You know, the long limb, same kind of length, but I just think St. Jude's more athletic. But Cam Hart is more instinctive, in my opinion. He's smarter. I just see it. I see how he communicates out there. I think that's what Benjamin St. Juice lacks. I think his communication skills, you know, are going to get him pushed out of this league eventually. I really think that he's going to struggle, and eventually, I don't think he's going to be a starter for Washington. I think eventually he'll be out, and I think you're going to see guys in his class that are even the 6th round, 5th round, whatever, you know, 5th round, and I think that are going to end up, you know, pushing him for time, and slowly, you know, he's not going to be the one. But Cam Hart, I think the intelligence is going to help him a lot early on, but you will see some people talk about him as safety too. So, you know, this is a team that's not set at safety either. You've got a bunch of guys that are decent. So you don't know.
No, I like that. I like that thought process. All right, third rounder. I got Peyton Wilson out of NC State. Your thoughts on him?
Yeah, another guy I wrote about. He's him.
I like that. I got a lot of people you wrote about. I like it.
You just have, and it happens every year. It happens every year with you and me.
And I didn't even talk to you about it. That's what's up. Go ahead.
You know, 6'4", good size. If it wasn't for past injuries, we'd be talking about top 25 pick, and honestly, that could still happen because I think everything I heard is he really impressed during his combine.
Really?
The medicals look good with the knee. He had shoulder and knee issues, but that was 2021. He played 22, 23. Great years. Coming back for that last year. 3 interceptions, 6 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries, 1 forced fumble, 1 return touchdown, 138 tackles. Really good numbers. Man, he looks like a guy that's going to end up in Green Bay. I hate to say it if Washington doesn't get him, but I think that ideally, if you can, I don't see him lasting that long at all. I think early second, mid second is where he's going to go. Maybe late first for a team like Green Bay. But I think Washington is probably the best situation he could go to, if anywhere, because I think learning behind Bobby Wagner, awesome. Letting him get, getting that body, because the lower body, you'll see it on him. He's a little lanky down there. Upper body, good upper body, really good recovery speed. He ran as fast as a lot of people thought that are NC State fans. I thought he'd run in that 4.5 early, but they said if you watched every single game, you'd see he's chasing down track star running backs, receivers every play. So that speed is going to help him a lot on the next level. And I think he's a high level starter.
You don't think what happened to Dean from Georgia could happen to him?
I think he's better. I honestly, all around, like if you talk about from bottom to top, how he is in coverage versus the run, I think you can put him against tight ends. He's got the kind of hips that can flip, that he can cover those guys. So Dean, I like him. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure he's at that level as far as, overall, football IQ, situational awareness, and especially situational awareness. There's at least 3 times in the 5 games I watched Peyton Wilson where so many games that running back or receiver would have been gone. He's not always the guy, Darryl Green kind of like, always chasing the guy down the field, like I said, he's always got his eye on the ball. Like when the ball's on the ground, he's one of the first ones there. It's just those kind of things that, to me, the only thing that can go wrong for him is if injuries start coming up again, if durability starts something. I think as far as his game goes, he's going to end up being the top linebacker in this draft and one of the top linebackers in the next couple of years. That's how good he is.
Oh, awesome. Okay, well then he'll probably be stashed up earlier than I thought then. By far. by far. All right, so let's go with my 5th round pick. Defensive end out of Troy, Javon Solomon.
I'm gonna have to shoot. Now we're not going to be agreeing much more, unfortunately.
That's okay.
Solomon, I think ideally, and again, it could be ideally because I've also heard whispers about having some 3-4 looks with Washington. So if they seriously do consider that, you can have Solomon as that stand-up outside guy, but that's where I project him. I think 3-4 outside linebacker. I think you can move him around. You can do some really good things. I like him. It's not that I don't like him at all. Yeah. I just wonder overall scheme fit. 6 foot, just over 240. I evaluated Kamara from Muhammad Kamara.
I know. I like him a lot,
and he's only 6'1", 250, but his build is a lot bigger than just Javon Solomon. And that's why, you think about Freeney, like that big body build. I think, they can get away with it. I don't know if you could. Javon Solomon is more of a change-up guy, 3-4 outside guy. But again, you're talking about in the 5th round like this, they're football players. And one thing about him is he's a football player and he produced. Troy, again, not the highest level, but if you just watch the tape on him, nonstop motor, he's going to make plays for you. But, I think you got to lower your expectations as far as, is he a future starter? I just don't see it. I think his best role is going to be a situational, pass rusher.
Yeah, I guess that's my thing. In the 5th round, I'm looking at a situational pass rusher. And for
that's
me,
what you're looking at.
So that's what I'm looking for. So when I look at him, that's where I gauge him at, like just for a rotationary guy that can consistently get pressure. I guess because I'm watching, when we look at what Dan Quinn and his team, his unit did at Dallas, like they rotated some bodies out there. So that's how I look at it. I'm just looking at it like, okay, how can we rush the quarterback and get pressure? How can we utilize? Yeah, this team may not be a 3-4 running a 3-4 scheme, but we can be in different schemes where we can utilize a young man. It's the same thing of like we talk about Micah Parsons. No one thought that Micah Parsons was going to be this pass rusher.
That's
we knew
right.
He'd be all world, but we thought he'd be an all world line, like playing linebacker, playing
right.
like to being that Mike linebacker, setting everything up. That's how we envision Micah Parsons being.
So we have no idea. Like you said,
yeah.
People that go in Jep with Solomon, you know, he could be a guy. He could be a guy they envision that they can move around just like Parsons and do things like that. So again, like I said, after 1 to 2 games, just so when I started seeing him against bigger tackles, I started envisioning on the next level him just getting washed out.
Course,
but again, that's why I'm with you. I think that if you're looking to get a guy in the first 3 rounds, that's too rich for him.
Yeah,
but if you can get him in this range, that's value for a guy the way he produced. I don't have the numbers, but he had a pretty high sack
like
total.
18 sacks.
You know, and that matters. That matters to teams.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, we remember was it Humaniora, another Troy guy who was, balling out. You know, I've heard people mention, he's a small version of Humaniora as far as, his style and stuff. But I like him. I like him. But 5th round, even though that we're talking about later round, that's when I'm starting to look at, some of the sweet spot. If they don't go tight end, there's definitely going to be some tight ends in that range that I'm looking at too.
Let's talk about that 5th round tight end. Like, what tight end do you think they can get in the 5th round?
I think that a guy that's really gone under the radar, I haven't heard really much people talk about, is Dalen Holker out of Colorado State. I think it was just over 600 yards, 7 touchdowns. What I like about him is the yak. I like, he's never going off at initial contact. A decent inline blocker, out in space, he can improve there. But, you're looking for a decent inline blocker. You're doing a lot of 12 personnel. If you have a speed guy and him on the other side, I think it's ideal. And that's where I think you start getting to 5th round. He's about, I think, just under 6'6", so good size. That's a guy that I really like in that range. But it's really crazy because with the tight end after Bowers, it's a pretty big drop off. Yeah. So I think you're going to see a bunch of tight ends that are going to go, and the 3rd or 4th tight end, you're going to be like, you were stunned. Like we might see the guy out of Michigan, just like what Dallas did. They're like, whoa, it's early. That's what kind of tight end class this is.
Do you like Sanders out of Texas that everybody does there, that everybody in love with?
He was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, and people thought he was going to be the best tight end in the nation. It just never came together. I've heard people in Texas talk about, just the way they utilize him. They try to get him to block too much, and, just know your player, know what he can do well. And, inline blocking is just not his thing. So I guess the question is, if you draft him, you have to have a plan. He's a guy that, you can put in the slot, you can move around, but, he has limitations, and I just wonder why it's not all coming together. Some of these guys that are really great in high school, just like physical freaks, they're just not asked to do much. It's like, you throw ball, get ball, and I think in the modern day NFL, these guys need to know the route tree, and everything I've heard, he's lacking. And some of the other tight ends, my favorite tight end after Bowers is, Sanat from Kansas State. This is a guy that got better every year, former walk-on to Kansas State. Played fullback, H-back, is getting, more nuance in the route tree when Kansas State asked him to do it. But Sanders, I think it's if he went to another school, like if he went to an Alabama or another one of his schools, I think he would have put up better numbers, because I think, as far as, receiving threat goes, we just haven't seen him utilized right. So he could be really good on the next level. And if you're talking about somehow he slips to, that late 3rd round pick, and Washington hasn't taken the tight end, they've addressed that tackle, man, that'd be a great value pick, because I think, you put him with Ertz, let him get, I think that would be a good combination.
This is for Paul, and I agree with Paul on this one too. Yeah, free my man Cole Turner. Cole Turner.
I gotta say this though. We were talking on the show with me and Doug today with one of our guests. Is this guy all out of Iowa, University of Iowa? That's what we need. We got him in 30 for 30 visit. The only reason we're not talking about him is because he had an ACL injury. But the thing is, he came back from it this year and really looked good. So that's a guy that I think I even have him ahead of Sanders right now, because I think that's somebody that he's probably going to go in that early 2nd round range. Teams are really fall in love with him.
And Iowa has a good track record too. They do have a good
offensive lineman and tight ends.
Tight ends. I
heard people comparing them to the guys that they have in the league now. So Laporta and the other guys, and it's just basically what they asked them to do. So that's why they come on the next level. They're ready to go as far as blockers, route running.
No, I think he'd be a real good one. But I do like free Cole Turner. I'm with you. I feel like Paul, I'm with you on that one. Free. And then
what if Armani Rogers just comes out and blows the doors off for everyone in camp? And
I feel like it's wild. I think that's the reason why, a lot of people are in love with Sanders. Like I've seen it everywhere, and I'm like, there are a lot of guys there are guys, to your point, like Amari Rogers is one, right? I like
Right.
Coach Hunter, but I think those are guys I feel like let's give them the opportunity to learn under Zach Ertz. I think Zach Ertz has a lot to, has a lot to offer for this team. These are young guys that can learn under him.
Right.
It'll probably be better. And you may not have to waste the draft pick on a tight end. You can put that in somewhere else. And you already got young guys ready to learn from this guy. And who I think have similar skill sets to be like the modern tight end, the modern productive tight end. So, which is different from a tight end they had last year. No knock on Logan, but Logan's to me is not the modern tight end. So I'm just saying. So I feel like, that's why I'm not really enamored. I'm not really big on drafting a tight end. I get it though. Like I get it. Like I get why, but and plus those young guys they're not Dan Quinn guys that we know of right now. So
I think honestly, I much as a tight end's important to me, I think they can get it in that, the later part. I think a receiver is more important because I think, Jahan Dotson, they need to get him in the slot. I think, they're not going to do a lot of motion. If you talk to people about Kingsbury's offense, you're not going to see a ton of pre-snap motion and stuff like that. So you're going to want to see the guys on the outside and the inside. And I want to see Jahan Dotson inside. And you can actually do that with Terry too. But I want to see a legit, outside guy that can really move the chains. I think they're going to address it.
Do you think they get that in the draft or maybe the second? I call it the second run of free agency.
The draft. I think the second
somebody
round,
capable of doing that.
There's going to be some guys that come available, though. There's definitely going to be some guys that come available, but I don't think it's going to be, for what they're looking for. I think it's going to be more what they already have is going to come available. But tight end, that's definitely one. Tight end is one that I can see in the next wave, a guy that they could get that could be, a starter.
I see that too. I can definitely see that. All right, so my fifth round pick, running back Will Shipley out of Clemson.
Yeah, no, I don't see them taking a running back just after the what they have. And again, that's also saying that they really are sold on what Rodriguez can do. And I think that it's just such a limited sample size. I don't think that they're going to have the luxury to really totally pass on a running back. If it's not the fifth, that seventh round pick to me is the sweet spot. So that's what I was going to say. I have no problem with the Will Shipley pick, but I would, reverse that maybe later with some of the other guys. Later on. But Shipley, he's the changeup. He's the changeup, that they have, what they're looking for in Eckler. Eckler, I think you're going to see him a lot more as a pass catching back than, grind it through. But Shipley can do both. Really underrated. I think that he's going to slip just based on, the depth and talent in the draft. And I think he's going to be a really good changeup for somebody. So if they can get that, with that fifth round, but again, to me, it's a little rich, but I see what you're doing here and I like it. So
only reason, because I think I agree with you with Eckler. I do agree with you. Totally agree with you. It's just that the Eckler tends to get hurt. That's
what I was just gonna say.
Yeah,
that you're gonna get over 14, 15 games, and again, I'm not. He's a physical freak if you look at him. But that's not gonna stop you from getting injured. But it's also gonna be how they're gonna use Robinson, how they planning to do all that. But they're gonna get some guy at some point.
Yeah, and my last one was more just like, all right, I'm all about building defenses and versatility. And Jalen Carlisle's out of Missouri. It looked like he's going to be moved to linebacker, but he played safety in Missouri.
Yeah, and these guys, you're looking for kick coverage guys, stuff like this, and with the new kicking rules, with the way it's going to be changing, they're going to be looking for more of those athletic types, not just returners now, guys that are just playing all around special teams now. So they're going to be looking for more of those hybrid breeds. So this is the point of the draft exactly that, we saw Washington, I think the guy, I forgot his name. I'm blanking. If it's Pierce, forgot his name. Tampa Bay, the former linebacker they got. I'm blanking what his name is.
Oh, the Washington guy. I can't. I know you're talking about. I just can't think of his name.
And I think that's the kind of, this is the point you're looking at a guy like, Jalen Carlisle's with that. But these are guys that are, fringe, probably practice squad guys at this point. Honestly, I know it's not going to happen, but 222, just because, quarterbacks can, choose where they can go on unrestricted free agent. This is where I'd like to see, wouldn't be surprised to see one of these, higher name quarterbacks slip to them. And, that'd be a good place to just stash them on the practice squad. Cause I'd like to see that.
You said better name quarterbacks?
Like
give me an example. Like I'm good. Give me an example. I like I like because we had this Griffin, this Griffin Kirk Cousins thing. I just want to make sure. You said later on, like in the 7th round.
Yeah. No, I'm
Oh, okay,
talking
that's
late.
different.
Like,
That's different. Okay, that's different.
I want to give you a name. There's a couple names. There's this. I'm just again this time of the day. You know what I'm dealing with. My
Yeah,
brain
no,
is
exactly. Yeah, I got you. I
all
got you.
over the place.
No, I got you. I got you.
But when you're talking later,
We're real like, hey, Adam. We're a real like podcast. So we look. I'm looking online too, bro. This is not. We're not make believe here.
Yeah, because it's again when I'm talking to you, I'm seeing the guys that I wrote about.
Yeah,
and my brain is thinking about the guys that I've already watched. And I'm getting ready to write about.
Yeah.
But Joe Milton, Tennessee.
Okay.
He's
Joe
one.
Milton. Yeah.
That like I think that he's going to go earlier just because everybody needs a quarterback. Yeah. But again, he's got a lot of development to go.
A lot of development. A lot.
Devin Leary, Kentucky. Pro style offense. He's another one that I think that he could actually be really good. Kendon Slovis, BYU. Transfer guy, a lot of experience. Brennan Armstrong, former Virginia guy, went to NC State. These are more that undrafted free agent levels.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you get them in the 7th round, you've got them under contract. And I think that, depending what you're going to do, there is new rules as far as third-year quarterbacks and how, where you can keep them. So if it's Mariota, I'm
thank you. Yes, it's Mariota. I'm with you.
I think that you can't just have some guy you hope 3-4 years. But I really think you have to look at somebody that you can say, we're going to develop him for the next year or so. Because Mariota, again, he's on the way out. But I think that his connection with, the Philadelphia coach you brought in, they think he can, help. Yeah. Cool. But yeah,
we don't have Philadelphia's offensive line though.
So there should not be if it's May, if it's Daniels, even if it's McCarthy, which I don't think so. I don't think that there's going to be any misunderstanding that there's a camp competition. They'll say all the right things, but Mariota's not going to challenge, and I don't think that they are going to keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster. I really don't. I think that they'll be able to keep guys on the practice squad, and the 7th round range, undrafted free agent. It's a good opportunity to do it. I think the good teams do it, and I think they will. I really think they will.
Yeah. So Paul actually had a good question. He said, "Question: If Jalen Wright, that's a running back out of Tennessee, if he's available in the 3rd round, would you get him?"
3rd round.
3rd round. Mm-hmm.
I love him, but 3rd round
for running back, I don't know.
That's too early
now. For nowadays, yeah.
If they do, you definitely have a plan because again, we can't kid ourselves that Washington has a great stable of running backs. With Eckler, older guy. Robinson, really like him. Really,
I like Brian Robinson, but
he could just flatline this year. Like, all right, well, this is as good as he's going to be. He's a change-up guy, great. So you always have to be on the lookout for a guy, and he's a game changer. He's a game breaker. So 3rd round, that late 3rd round pick, that's that compensatory pick they got. Yeah. That I don't know. I really would consider it. I just don't think they will.
Yeah, I'm with that. I just think that I feel like it'll get to a point where you take best available. I do think that if he's the best available, it gets to a point.
Especially if I think as soon as they take their quarterback and if hopefully their left tackle, that's when I think it's going to be.
Yeah, because you're building around a young guy. That's
because they really put themselves in a good position with signing defensive ends, linebackers that aren't immediate, and I think that they can go for best player available after those first 2 picks. And I think that's what good teams do. It might be a little too early, but I think that if you can get in that position, like you said, the 3rd pick. You get a wide receiver, that there's a lot of guys in that range that I think could come and that would push Kwame Brown for sure. So, you're talking about guys that, most teams use 3 wide receivers in their base packages. So a starter that you can get in that range, in that 2nd, 3rd round range. Yeah. I think that there's going to be some guys that slip and it's going to work out for them.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Their whole situation will be interesting because, I think a lot of flip players for Washington won't be there anymore. Like, I don't think De'Ami Brown's going to be there anymore.
I think out of all the
teams. I like De'Ami.
Yeah. I think all the teams that we watched, it's the most unknown what kind of players are commanders.
Yeah, I know.
What's a commander? So we have an idea with Quinn, that the defensive mentality, but as far as offense, you're bringing in Kingsbury, Anthony Lynn, like 2 opposite philosophies. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be fun. I think once because I honestly, I know a lot of people are saying this, so I'm not breaking news. I really think it's going to be Jaden Daniels. I really think because I think that, tickets matter, and I think that you're going to get a lot more people that are going to come out for that show as compared to May. And again, I think you'll be able to hide a lot of deficiencies with the offensive line early on with the guy with his kind of athleticism. But it's going to be fun.
So this is my question for you. Which, other than like the quarterback, I guess I could say tackle too. No, let's say quarterback. Other than the quarterback, which player do you want to see Washington get the most? Other than the quarterback, other than Jaden Daniels, which player do you want to see Washington get the most? I mean in second round and up. Obviously, this is saying that they've already drafted Jaden Daniels. What would be like? Oh, they got to get this player in the second round. Who would be that?
So second round again, and now I got Keon. Like I said, Keon Coleman, Florida State. 6'4". Gotcha. The 4.6 40s was throwing everyone off, but forget that crap. Okay. Just watch what he does. Talking about nobody's knocking the ball out of his hands. He's got that man NFL frame. So he's someone, and again, not the prototypical outside guy, but if somehow Ladd McConkey from Georgia falls to that range, which he definitely could.
Yeah.
And I'll stick with the receivers. Troy Franklin, in Oregon, and a guy I really like, Xavier Leggett from South Carolina.
I like Leggett. Leggett's good.
And then and then I think after this guy drops, then Malishi Corley, Western Kentucky, they call him Baby Debo. I wrote about him too. Just 5'11", but man, he plays like a 6'5" guy. So I think when you get into that range, this offense needs to get better. And I think if you get a quarterback, offensive line is going to be so important, but so are added skill positions.
So for you, it would be like it looks like it'd be Jaden Daniels. It'd be so quarterback, wide receiver. That would be your order.
Quarterback, tackle, wide.
Also, you would quarterback, tackle, wide receiver. Okay, so you would do tackle first. You do tackle. Okay, you would do tackle first.
Because I think there's going to be a drop off of tackle, and I think there's going to be a drop off of wide receiver. Cornerback is important too. TJ Tampa from Iowa State, he's going to be there. Another long limb corner, that could come in. And I know they're going to be looking at corners. They're not going to be sold on what they have. They were one of the worst units in the NFL last year, and they've lost Fuller. So you throw that in, they probably envision themselves as one of the worst defensive backfields in the NFL. So that's going to be another position that definitely has a drop off. But I think that from the possession guys that they're looking for, you start to get into those smaller guys when you start to get into the middle, late third and farther. Talent, no doubt, but they start to be not those big body possession guys. And I think that's definitely within the first 3 or 4 picks. I think they'll go wide receiver. I do.
Okay. Well, if they get a wide receiver, I wouldn't be mad at it. I just want a tall wide receiver. I won't lie.
Well, that's why I said, John. I mentioned Keon Coleman and his teammate Johnny Wilson. Johnny Wilson, that late 3rd round pick. A lot of people I know, they don't like him because they want to see more explosive guy, but he's 6'6".
They need something different, man. Because Terry and Jahan are supposed to be guys who can pretty much
right. So you're not asking this guy to do that. You want a red zone presence. You want a guy 50-50. You want fade. Over the shoulders. That's what he can do. He can get you 600-700 yards a year. 5-6 touchdowns as your 3rd or 4th option. So the Florida State duo. Those are 2 guys I definitely get in that 2nd, 3rd round range that Washington should consider because they need it. They have to do with an offensive line that's developing. Need to add skill players.
Totally agree. Paul said Ryan Purcell from Florida.
Oh, he's awesome. I think he's going to go earlier than people think. I think he'll end up going. People have this 3rd round range. I think somebody in the early 2nd is going to commit to him. He's good. He's good.
Well, Adam, man, this has been dope, man. Appreciate you for being on, man. But before we end this show, how can folks catch your content? And also, how can they catch you on social media?
Yeah, as always, the burgundyandgoldreport.com put out my weekly scouting reports. Writing them all the way up until the draft. I don't do all these mocks online. I'll do one Washington 7-round mock before the draft starts. As always, I'm with Doug McCray on Wednesday. We'll be doing these draft shows. Great guys we get from PFF, NFL Network, really good guests. He's got Jim Nagy from Senior Bowl. That was really cool. Get these knowledgeable guys. So yeah, just catch me there. All my content's at the burgundyandgoldreport.com. My link tree is there with all my socials.
Yeah, they're knowledgeable guys, but you're in that knowledgeable guy prop group too. So you're
trying.
A knowledgeable guy. You are
humbly trying. The more and more people end up doing this, the more the trend I'm seeing now, especially with the quarterbacks, is people shoot down other evaluations, but that's the first thing I learned 101 is that's what you don't do. It's always respecting, different set of eyes.
Exactly. I agree with
And,
that too, bro.
that's all I ask. I love that, more people are doing this, but the arguments back and forth about who's bad, that's not how evaluating goes. If you're doing that, you're not, you can't call yourself an evaluator because that's just not how we do it. But unfortunately, it's rampant this year.
Hey, people are so pressed to be right, man. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Well, Adam, man, thanks for being on, my man. Always great work, man. Always
Thanks.
great work.
All
right, take care, Adam. Have a good one, man. All right, man. Again, that was Adam Aniba from the Burgundy and Gold Report. Make sure you follow Adam on X. That's at the B&G Report. That's at the B&G Report. So follow Adam. Adam's a great follow, man. So insightful. He does his homework. And the thing that Adam stated is so true. Even scouts, whoever, or people who are coming up or evaluating talent, no one is going to be 100% correct. Everybody's gonna have a different opinion, but we just gotta respect each other's opinions. You know what I'm saying? Like, not go out there and say, "Oh, you're just wrong." Just say, "You know what? I disagree. I think this player may be better than the next player." You know what I mean? So, hopefully, man. Yeah. Paul said, "What Paul's name? Mystic games this year." I don't know, Paul. That's a good question. I'll probably go to a game. Maybe will I cover a game? I might try. That's a good question. I know Ray typically covers Mystic games, so I don't know if he's gonna go back and go back to do that. But yeah, we'll talk some Mystics though. I mean, would have loved for them to draft Angel Reese. That would have been dope, but they didn't do it. So all right, before we about to wrap this show up. But before I wrap it up, let me get into particulars. Oh, hold on, my man Paul said, "Are you going?" All right, Paul. All right. The girl from UConn was the best player though. She's the best player. So they picked the right in terms of player. They picked the right player. So yeah, you may see me, bro. Definitely. All right. So before we wrap this show up, let's go into particulars. Hey, subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio. Just search the Urban Sports Scene. Also follow us on X at Urban Sports Scene, IG at Urban Sports Scene, and like our Urban Sports Scene Facebook page. Make sure you subscribe to the Urban Sports Scene YouTube channel as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the red subscribe button and like this video. Also check out the Urban Sports Scene at www.urbansportscene.com. Anyway, man, I appreciate my man Adam for being on. Appreciate all y'all for viewing. We almost reached 200 viewers today live. So I appreciate y'all. Y'all the real MVPs, man. You keep us going, you keep us thriving. Anyway, we appreciate y'all. Hopefully the Commanders draft, whoever you want to draft. I mean, it doesn't matter, man. We all win as Commander fans, right? Anyway, you've been listening to the Urban Sports Scene for ages. You dig? Deuces. We out, or I'm out.
Peace.